Hello and welcome to a very special video. Now, as you may know, I've been working on Daioujou Loop 2 for a while, and at some point my emphasis kind of shifted from just learning to survive, to get a survival clear, to chaining the game, because I found chaining just so satisfying and interesting in Loop 2, and that kind of escalated where I just kind of started spending time on creating this route which would enable me to chain most of the game, not the whole game, while also being relatively safe for survival. And when you start getting into kind of chain and score play, the amount that you spend on a game kind of quadruples, and it takes a lot of time. But basically, it has come to the point where I feel pretty good about the routes that I have created for myself and practiced. And I thought that I would do kind of a chaining demonstration for Loop 2. So this is not a clear video, but in a way it's something cooler because, I just posted a video about losing and kind of these kind of mental traps that you can get stuck in when trying to get a clear that isn't happening. And I realized part of my own frustration with doing Daioujou runs was that, well, first of all, I wasn't really ready to go to push for the clear yet, so a little bit more practice is needed, but also because I had these chaining routes that I knew that in theory I could execute in a single run, but getting all of them in a single run is very, very unlikely because just a single mistake anywhere can kind of destroy your chain. And then I would feel kind of bad because I want to show off what I've learned. I want to share kind of the cool chaining that I could do in theory. But then it's very hard to do a run that clears and has all the chaining and stuff. And then I came up with the idea, like, why don't I do just kind of a chaining demonstration? And that would be kind of to kind of do a kind of a snapshot of where I'm at and what I could do and kind of the route that I have created, which I think is pretty cool. And then I have the kind of pressure off because, I've shown you the chaining stuff, and then I could go for a clear, without pressure, and I would do as much chaining as I could in the clear. But if I didn't, get all of my tricks in the clearing run, I wouldn't feel too bad because, I've already done the chaining demonstration. So I thought that would kind of help me with kind of these kind of mental side of playing a game for a long time. And also I think this can be quite helpful to people who are maybe interested in getting into Daioujou Loop 2 but feel very overwhelmed when they try to clear even stage 2-1 or 2-2. It was like that for me at first as well. And so I thought it would be nice to post kind of a run that demonstrates a relatively safe path through the game, because really the cool part about Daioujou is that scoring and survival in Loop 1 pretty divorced from each other. In Loop 2, because there is kind of a optimal path through each stage that most of the players take, where where it's created for both, like for survival and chaining, so they're kind of one and the same. But obviously you need to kind of adjust your play quite a bit to get like full chains and stuff. But you don't, if you just want to get into survival play, you can have a look at these at this run and then adjust accordingly. So take the survival strats, and when you see like something that I do something kind of crazy to keep the chain going, then you just skip that. So I think a lot of this is really applicable. And also, if you're getting into Daioujou Loop 2, I also highly recommend kind of getting into this mindset where chaining is also part of your survival, because chaining consistently gives you consistent hyper gauge when you pick up these. And when you have consistent hyper pickups, you can do planned hypers, which are a huge part of making loop 2 manageable. You can think of them like, you have planned bombs, and then you have planned hypers as well. And when you know how useful planned bombs can be, well, planned hypers are just as useful. So when you can do a little bit of chaining and getting a little bit consistent and chaining, you get those hyper drops that you really want in this game. And also chaining in loop 2 is pretty lenient, especially because your hyper the chain gauge, it goes down more slowly, and also you can use your rapid shot in a way that isn't possible in loop 1. Using the rapid shot just gives you a lot of hyper gauge, which was kind of a surprising thing to me. So yeah, don't be too afraid of going into loop 2 trying to kind of chain. You don't have to do it right off the bat, but just know that once you start incorporating a bit of chaining into your play, the game gets a little more difficult at first, but then it gets easier. While if you don't do like any chaining or don't think about like hyper managements at all, then I think you're more likely to hit a wall at some point. So here, like kind of the score play and survival play kind of intertwined in a cool way. And so yeah, the two big parts of doing loop 2 consistently is macro dodging, which means kind of routing out the game in a way where you minimize the amount of dangerous dodges that you do, which I've really tried to do here, because turns out I'm really not good at micro dodging. I'm much better kind of at the macro scale and maybe routing and stuff like that. But then when it gets into the micro, it's like, I don't know, I just get wiped. So I've really tried to like minimize micro in this route. And the second thing again is the hyper managements, where you get hypers at the exact time that you want, so that you can do kind of bullet cancels or do a lot of damage to a boss. And I'm going to do a lot of these strats where I just kind of destroy the boss's health by doing first a kind of a hyper and then a bomb or something, because again, I'm not too good at the micro, so I come up with other ways to kind of do it. And before we get into the run, an important thing that I want to say is that this run is done in 2 segments, because I have my chaining route planned out, but again, it's just at this point it's not feasible for me to do it all in one go. It just I just need to put a lot more time into it to get it consistent, which I'm not quite ready to do yet. So the run that I'm going to show off is the first segment is the first 4 stages. So I'm doing a continuous run for the first 4 stages, and then I switch to another segment, which is just stage 5 and the final boss rush, because like doing 2-5 in its entirety, like full chaining and doing the bosses even with really good resources, that's just very, very difficult. I think it only takes like 5 to 6 minutes, but it's like way difficult than like basically doing any one all. So I don't feel too bad like showing off just the full chain 2-5 with bosses as a separate segment. And yeah, and just one last thing, I'm just going to say what my kind of chaining goals are for each stage. So stage 1, full chain. Stage 2, full chain. Stage 3, I chain the first half and the second half separately with a chain break during the mid boss, because doing the mid boss link is it kind of feels like unintended because it requires kind of really precise and really kind of weird things that you need to do. So I just kind of left it off from my chaining route, because it's just too dangerous to incorporate into my relatively safe route through the game. So I decided to just kind of skip doing the crazy mid-boss link. And then stage 4, I chain up to the mid-boss, which gives you the 1-up. Because after that you get, again, like getting the link, like keeping the chain going during the mid-boss and to the next section, it's kind of crazy. And then you have to play the 2-4 rails, which is like the hardest part of the whole game. And in my routes, I'm basically like planning to die there, or not planning, but it's kind of expected. So yeah, chaining the stage 4 up to the mid-boss. And then for stage 2-5, I'm going for the full chain, which feels like super satisfying to do when you can pull it off. So that's what I'm going to do. And again, 2 segments. First segment for the first 4 stages, and the second segment just for 2-5. So getting into stage 2-1, there's several key points here for kind of the entire run. And the first one is macro dodging and routing from macro dodging, because if you look at the screen, like there's tons of bullets, but I don't do a lot of dangerous dodges. Even with those like blue patterns that these mid-sized ships shoot out, I always look for the large gap to go through. So there's like larger gaps and more narrow gaps. And so at each point, I try to look for the safest route. And the second thing is, as you can see here, I'm just using my rapid shot for chaining. And since I'm playing BXE and the rapid shot is huge, that makes chaining pretty easy in Loop 2. Like, obviously survival is difficult, but you can just spam your rapid shots and do a lot of chaining in that way. So it's kind of a important point if you want to get into Loop 2. And then just the third thing that I should have said in the intro, but I just realized that I forgot to say it, that even though I'm pretty happy with this route, and it doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean there isn't like some weird stuff in here, like the way that I'm going to get the last B. It's just something that I learned in Loop 1, and I don't really think it's a good way of getting the last B, but I don't know, I've been lazy too, because this kind of works for me. So I haven't learned, like doing this, destroying the last ship, and Zako, and getting that, going through that pattern. Kind of, I don't know, maybe not the best way, but you figure out a better way yourself. And also something else, like you can see me, I have 5 hypers stacked here, which you don't really need to do, but you don't really need hypers in 2-1. And so I was like, hey, I'll just do this thing where I cancel out this pattern, or I don't cancel it in this run, because usually I cancel during that pattern, the one that explodes, and I get a nice cancel, and then I do a lot of damage to the boss and basically delete the rest of the boss. So kind of do this because it allows me to start 2-5 with kind of a full, almost full 5-level hyper, and that means I can do a lot of nice juicy chaining in here. And again, looking for opportunities to macro dodge as much as possible. This kind of a chain here, or a link that I do, I grab the hyper and look at the point blanking. I point blank that tank coming out of the building in a way that it doesn't even get the chance to fire. So again, macro dodging. Again, speed killing this tank. There's like so much going on here, and I can't get into every detail, but yeah. I was kind of happy with how I routed out this segment. Again, rapid shot, so good both for survival and chaining, and with like BX's wide shot, so good. And here, this is a strat that I do every time, where again, I'm minimizing dodging, because I know that at this point I can hyper, and so I don't need to kind of dodge the rest of the buildings pattern, which is kind of difficult. And then I have a nice hyper for this section, which means that enemies die more quickly, and then I can just kind of do this macro dodging. Like, look at that beautiful macro, so nice. But this this pattern, this first pattern here, is such a run killer for me, and if I didn't do chaining, I would basically I would route a hyper here, where I would kind of hyper during that pattern to kind of cancel it out, because you can't kind of route it out because it's random every time. It's kind of, I don't know, it's just insidious with those floating raspberries here during the hyper corridor to get a nice chain going on. And also, but I'm doing it like my hyper management is I kind of manage the hyper here during the stage where I can do a specific strats during the boss, which we'll see in just a moment. Getting the last 2 bees is such a cool thing to do. So yeah, when I pick up the last bees, look at my hyper gauge, it's almost full. I have a hyper, I have a bomb floating around, and so this is what I do. I hyper the boss, then I wait for my hyper gauge to fill up. Yeah, there, that it fills up. Then I bomb, do a lot of damage. Then I have to dodge for a while. And as long as I manage to survive this, it's kind of nice to have a bit of micro dodging in the game too. When I see the blue bullets come out here, I hyper and point blank, and I don't need to dodge the blue pattern, which is the hardest one for me. And I know there's a strat that most players do where they get, during phase 2, they get on top of the boss, kind of. There's kind of a safe spot there, but kind of tried it out a little bit, and it, I don't know, it just didn't work for me, and so I decided to do it the kind of the, I guess, normal way or something. I think it's just too difficult either way. So stage 3 is really strange because the difficulty of the stages in Loop 2 vary a lot. Like, the second half of this stage is pretty much the same as in Loop 1. A little more difficult, obviously, but this one is a lot, like this first half is a lot more difficult, especially those spinning turrets. Like, you really want to, like the first one that we just saw there, you can kind of route it out where you don't need to dodge a lot, but the 2 others are pretty dangerous. Like this one, really hate dodging through this. It doesn't look difficult, but there's something about those overlapping patterns. And then this third one is the worst of them all. Like, I hate this. This is such a huge run killer again. And here what I do, again, managing those hypers, I get that B, and I hyper for safety. Do point blank damage to get a point blank to get damage in, bomb, destroy the boss, and then look at this. I hyper so that I don't need to kind of do any difficult dodges in this point, and also it allows me to kind of easily do the links in this section. It's doable without a hyper for some, not for me. So when I have a hyper here, it allows me to chain the stage. And as the hyper runs out, I uncover a B and the second B, and I already have a second hyper waiting for me, which is nice. Again, this is the magic of routing to get the everything that you need. And here I made a slight mistake, and there's a B that I don't uncover here on the right, and I decided to let it go because it was kind of risky to go kind of back to get it. So kind of a blemish on this on this run. Yeah, basically this run sucks because I didn't get that 1B. But yeah, just forget about that. And here I finally learned the safe spot here. Just get down here and you just chill for a moment, and you don't need to dodge. And then it also allows you to chain this section more easily. And this kind of final part kind of needs to, yeah, this dodging not very good. I kind of messed up there, so it can be done in a better way. I need to clean up that last bit. Stage 3 boss, very difficult. So many attacks, so many places to die in, and this is micro dodging. This is the magic of the micro that you just need to do. Like this pattern, like this one, gave me a lot of trouble at first, but once you get the movement down, you need to go to the left, and then you kind of need to follow the path of the bullets. It's really hard to explain. Here you need to be fast. This is just something that takes practice. This is just raw practice. There's like really no tricks to this boss. You just need to grind it out to get the phase 1 like relatively consistent. But the good part is, if you have a hyper and a bomb, look what happens here. I just hyper, use my hyper to the full, and just bomb, and I don't need to dodge anything. And if you're playing the M2 version, there's a gadget that shows your iframes when you're hypering or bombing, and that's secretly like the most useful thing about this port. Once you get into loop 2, it is unbelievably useful, so please use that to your full advantage. And then stage 4, very cool stage, and surprisingly not that difficult to chain, because there's so many enemies at all times, so you can just spam your rapid shot. This opening segment, I think you could do it a little bit more safely, but this is, I don't know. I just kind of also like to kind of freestyle a little bit here, because it kind of keeps the game fresh for me too. It kind of depends on where my hyper gauge is at, and all those things, but usually around this part I'm going to hyper, and here, yeah, I do kind of a dangerous dodge, because you can hyper at the different moments and then you don't need to kind of dodge that, but I kind of messed it up here. And here, this is a surprisingly chill section once you learn it, and if you have the X's wide shots. And there's almost no trick even to chaining this section. You just use your shots, and sometimes just, you know, just don't rush. Just play it at a slow and steady tempo. Yeah, and these agons or whatever they are, they give you a lot of hyper gauge, so not too difficult to chain. You just need to learn to survive it, and that's basically almost kind of like your chaining routes. And here I'm going to play it safe, and I get into the corner, and when I'm trapped I hyper and just that was kind of a bad dodge. I mistimed it slightly, but it usually isn't too difficult. And it's nice to have a hyper for this section, because it just makes it more manageable. And again, there's kind of a very specific tempo to this stage. If you go too fast, you get trapped. If you go too slow, you get trapped. But if you just do it just the right way, not too bad. Like there, I did some unnecessary micro dodging because I went too fast, and I had to do some micro. And here's where my chain breaks, and that's fine. That's my goal, to chain up here. And then I will try to do this hyperless. In this run, something bad is going to happen. Like I played it too riskily and I died here, which isn't super good, because ideally I would like to get to the 2-4 rails on my first life and then die there without a hyper, so that when I die, I have my 2 bomb stocks, and then I can bomb, maybe hyper here and get through it safely. But now I don't get the kind of the indulgence of having 1 death here, so I need to step up my game, and I actually need to do a lot of crazy dodging and like just play plain well. And luckily in this run, I managed to get through this crazy section. So yeah, using a hyper and a bomb here is pretty standard for me, and that's pretty fine. So here you need to learn this section, how to misdirect the Zako and how to point blank the turrets. And here, this is kind of my new strat for stage 2-4 boss, because I suck at dodging this boss. So what I do is I basically hyper right away, then I look at the gadget to maximize my kind of point blank frames, then bomb, and then just dodge the rest. And basically there should be a kind of cancel right around here, like when the boss runs out of health. But this is kind of, I messed this up, so I just took a death there. If I didn't, it would have been better, because, you know, then I could have started the stage 2-5 with an extra life and stuff. And with 2-4 boss, what I do here, this is very safe. I just wait for the gears to close in, and then I just point blank and kind of delete phase 2. So that has been the first segment of my Daioujou chaining demonstration. I think it went mostly according to plan. Like there was the blemish of not getting that 1B in stage 3, and then in stage 4 I had kind of an early death at the 1-up turret, which I made up for by playing the rails really well. Then I took an extra death during stage 2 for a boss, which kind of sucks, but this isn't really kind of... I do show off my boss strats in this run, but it's mainly for chaining, so who cares? And welcome back to the second part of this chaining demonstration. And just a quick note before I hit play, you can see that my resources aren't quite lined up with where the previous segments ended, and that's because, you know, that was kind of a live run, and this is me starting from the save state that I've set up for myself for 2.5. So yeah, these two segments don't really match, but they don't really need to, because like this segment is just kind of just to show basically 2.5. I also do the bosses, but the bosses, like the boss fight didn't go too well. It's more kind of a bonus, so this is more about full chaining stage 2.5, and let's go. So talking about those planned hypers, here is what I do at the beginning. The beginning is super difficult, so I wait for the second big ship to die, and then I activate a hyper so that I have more firepower. And I didn't play too well in this run. You can do this like really clean sweeps through the blue patterns, and again, there's like gaps that are larger than others, and you want to look out for those. So don't go through the narrow gaps in the blue patterns, go for the larger ones. And here, this is where the first kind of difficult-ish scoring or chaining trick is. I do the full Zako rush. You can skip this, but I kind of found out this pattern where you go to the left, to the right, and to the left again, and that's kind of enough to do a bit of misdirection. And here, this is really difficult. I count for like maybe the 5th or the 6th wave, and then I hyper to get the boss stuck on the top of the screen, so I have some room here. This is a real run killer again, this boss, and if you just want to go for survival, maybe look for another another method for doing this boss. So the beehive, this is such a crazy section because it's kind of consistent, but you need to be really precise about your play. So basically the strat here is to kind of know where the big bees are going to come out and be kind of super quick about destroying them with your laser, and then just use your rapid shot to get rid of the Zako. And here you can see my hyper chain filling up, and I want to activate my hyper before I get the second hyper, and I did it just in time, and this is a good place to hyper because I can kind of create this gap between the popcorn where I can go through safely. And here what I do is I do as much point blank damage to this boss as possible, because I hate dodging like this attack. For some reason this is really difficult for me to dodge. Again, those overlapping bullets, I don't like them, so I did that point blank damage to finish the boss off early. And this is a messed up section, and you need to practice this, and I need to practice this more, because there's some runs where I can create like better gaps, and then sometimes it just kind of gets crazy. And I activate a hyper there at the end so that I can create a link for this boss, a kind of a safe link. And some people hyper at this point. I hyper earlier because it just works for me, because it makes the big like enemy wave rush a little bit easier. And here, what I'm going to do is get another hyper just in time. Hyper management. This is what is going to carry you through the game. To cancel that attack and have some more firepower in here, and very specific route, very specific movement in here. And then switching between rapid shot and laser shot to get rid of the popcorn. And here, going to the top of the screen so that I can destroy that building before it gets a chance to shoot. And here, macro dodging, macro dodging, macro dodging, creating those big gaps with your movements. And here, just go slow and steady again. Here, hyper drop that I'm going to use in just a moment, because this stage is all about using hypers, like basically all of the time. So the way that I do it is that, because this is a pretty difficult spot to dodge, so I kind of use that spot to hyper cancel the bullets, and then I have also a hyper for this section, misdirect the pattern of the building, and then This is again just slow and steady, go slow and steady. And then the ending, it's pretty difficult, and I'm not sure if I do it kind of the best way or anything, but the way that I do it here is I kind of go to the left and then activate a hyper there to get a bullet cancel, and then I uncover the B last because that gives you enough hyper gauge to chain into the power-up ships, and that's how you full chain 2-5. Kind of looks easy when you look at it, but it's really not easy, and it took me a huge amount of time to get it right. So I'm really proud of this run. Like this boss is whatever, but the full chain run of this stage, this is like, I think this is maybe like my most favorite like piece of shmupping that I've ever done. So I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, just a couple of words about the last boss. It took a lot of unnecessary death during Koryu, so yeah, not a very good fight. But it allows me to demonstrate something that I've actually changed since my Hibachi guide that I did last year. I used to bomb this first pattern, but actually you want to just dodge this, because this is like, you can't dodge this, but this can just be RNG like this pattern. So now I dodge the first pattern and then bomb the second pattern. And that allows me to get also some point blank damage in, and so I don't need to dodge the third pattern for too long, so I really recommend that. Let's have a look at the Hibachi fight. I don't actually remember how the Hibachi fight went, but I'm kind of low-ish on resources, so I think there might be some washing machine dodging here. Let's see. Just doing my standard Hibachi strat here. Here you don't need to go to the side. That's again a thing that I did wrong in my Hibachi guide. You just kind of point blank the angry bee. Yeah, I think I've gotten a little bit better at the washing machine too, but it kind of depends if I can get a kind of a decent kind of, if I can enter it at the right moment. And here, using the iframe gadget, super useful during Hibachi. So what I like to do is try to dodge the washing machine with the hyper, because realistically, like, I'm going to bleed my resources during my runs because I just die at unexpected moments. So basically, to be able to clear, I will need to dodge some washing machines. So I'm preparing to do that, and I'm not afraid of the washing machine. Like, the washing machine is kind of the least stressful aspect of this like ending section, because it's kind of luck dependent. It's kind of hard to explain like how to play it, but I don't know, I don't feel too much pressure during the washing machine. Just something, I don't know, it's just kind of this final send of this finale that maybe you do and maybe you don't, and either way it's fine, because playing this game is so cool and so fun. So yeah, that was my chaining demonstration. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I really hope that if you, yes, you, I'm talking actually to the person who can hear these words right now. If you are interested in Daioujou Loop 2, you should get into it, because it is difficult, it is demanding, it's going to consume your life, but just take it slowly, just play it for a bit, take a break, do something else, then come back to it, and route for macro dodging and route for planned hypers, and that's going to carry you, and maybe incorporate some cool chaining that you learn from this run, or maybe from somewhere else. So yeah, that was my video, and thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.